Yeah. Sightbox, unbox, where we open the door. New podcast.
Welcome to the BOX POD
POD.
episode 6. We're in January 2025.
January 23rd.
Holidays are behind us.
Yes.
The election is behind us.
Inauguration.
The inauguration is behind us.
Full speed ahead.
It's been kind of a wild ride. I became a grandfather
Yes.
over the holidays. Zach,
Yes.
throw up the picture here. This is James Joseph
There he is.
Castro right here.
Yeah.
Look at that guy.
Good looking kid.
Good looking kid. Future CEO maybe, since my kids want nothing to do with this business. I think they see all the grays and
Yeah.
stress. They're like, we're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exciting season,
Yes.
and exciting season for Sightbox for sure. Let's talk a little bit about what maybe something you're excited about heading into this year for the agency. Kind of just in general, how you're feeling.
Yeah, I think every year is sort of like a step up for us. Like it feels like we're learning new tricks, and I think this year we've got a cool new bag of toys to play with.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to kind of getting those out. And we're just super lean right now, and it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like, man, we got an awesome team.
Yeah.
I love working with everybody, and they're super talented. And it
Haven't
just
been
makes
in the kitchen too much in the last couple of years, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
To get back in there.
yeah,
you
it
know?
is. It is.
Roll up the
especially
sleeves.
especially with cool people. It's like
Yeah.
I was on a call yesterday with some of them, and I was like this is fun.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoy this. So I'm looking forward to a bunch of that. And of course, like I said, we've got a CFO now. And so there's
Yeah.
an even better, like looking ahead sort of things that we can do that I'm really excited about.
Yeah. And, talking about bag of tricks a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
episode 5, we talked about the advocate-led growth
Yeah.
program or product, if you want
Mm-hmm.
to call it. And we're just starting to put it out there a little bit. And I think it's resonating. I think it's relevant, right? Especially right now with kind of AGI, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Everybody's going super hard,
Yes.
right? And so we keep saying, it's going to be a race to the top. And advocates is going to be key for that, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we talked about design partners, some of the different approaches some of our other clients have taken, but things are going to get really hot quickly. I think we're starting to see AGI. I mean, everywhere now. Last year was a lot just AI in general.
Yeah.
Bots and
Yeah.
AI. GPTs and that sort of thing, and now it's just agents.
Agents.
And now, dude, how many meetings do you go where there's not a note taker?
No,
This is
it's
just like the smallest example of using.
yeah. We should
agents,
we
right?
should take a picture of our Monday morning meetings.
Yeah,
Like it's like people and then all their agents
Yeah.
next to them.
It
And
totally is.
It just looks crazy.
and it's just now it's normal.
Yeah.
Like nobody's like, what is this thing?
Yeah. No.
You know?
You're like, where's your thing? Where's
Yeah,
your bot?
now when my note taker doesn't show up, I freak out.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, can you let it in if it's not my meeting? Can you
Yeah.
let my note taker in?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, no problem. Or
Yeah.
If it doesn't sync or whatever, it doesn't show up. I'm
Yeah.
like panicking.
Yes.
What am I gonna do without my transcript, without my AI notes?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
getting super crazy. But imagine being able then to access people that you really don't have much access to, and saying, you know what, just invite their agent,
Mm-hmm.
or let me go to a meeting with this agent.
Yeah.
Like me as a human with my
Yes.
note taker,
Yes.
we'll bring on somebody who has, time is their most valuable asset.
Mm-hmm.
And then this thing is just trained, like it knows. It's basically like a avatar,
Yeah.
It's be like, ask it questions. What do you think about this? What's your take on this?
Mm-hmm.
What should we do here? let me get back to you, right?
Yep.
Let me figure that out and get back to you. And what is the agent going to do? It's going to go back and be like, hey, what do you know, if it's something that's not trained on, what, you know, yes, no, what's the response here?
Mm-hmm.
Gives it, and it comes right back to us.
Yeah.
Just going to be such a common thing,
Yeah.
normal thing.
Well, I'm waiting for the update I want is like we use Otter, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting for the day when, because Otter's in all of our meetings.
Yeah.
At a certain point, Otter should be able to run the meeting as a PM and be like, okay, you know, who are we waiting on, right?
Yeah.
Like it starts out the meeting like, hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Here's the things we were going to cover off here's where we left off last week.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the things that we were going to get done. Here's the things we're going to go through. Like do the agenda setting for the meeting. And then just like I'll hand it over to Charlie for what's next. And it's listening while you're doing it. And then you can even ask it questions like as you're going, not just like general, but like about something, about the topic you're on, you know? I can see that rather than it just note taking, like it literally running those calls. So, and even bringing questions up like, oh, you were going to ask about this, or before you know, do we have any more questions? And then it will say, oh, actually, you know, there was something else that we needed to cover.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think eventually it'll just run those meetings better than we could.
I mean, even you mentioned our CFO, right? And it's been a game changer for us, just in the growth of our company. But now we're getting into strategy, right? And planning and forecasting and all kinds of stuff like that. And so imagine, again, his time is limited as well.
Yeah.
So imagine a CFO agent where right now it doesn't replace our CFO, but it would be like an assistant to the CFO kind of.
Yeah.
That could answer anything on the spot. I mean connected to your QuickBooks.
Yes, exactly.
Connected to your financials, that understands everything. And then you just ask it questions that you don't need to bother your CFO with.
Right.
Right. And so those kind of things, I mean, talk about game changing, because now, I mean, how long did it take us? 13 years to finally bring a CFO in, you know?
Yes.
How many small businesses, startups, and agencies that have been around, you know, not too long can afford a CFO? Not very many can. Even fractional is expensive, right?
Yeah.
And so now with this new approach, I mean, you can, some companies can probably get away with a whole virtual CFO. I mean, it's better than nothing, but
Yeah.
well, it's only going to get better.
Think about us. I mean, at some point too, I could see us doing the same thing where we augment what we do with a brand bot,
Yeah.
you know? So if you have questions about how to say this or how to say that, and, you know, what's your positioning on this or that, just type it out, ask the bot, you know? I mean, we already do some of that already.
You created a GPT for
I've created a
some
few.
of the strategy
Yes.
sessions that we do, right, with our clients.
Yeah.
And how does that play out?
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible because I basically give it everything that I do.
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, you know, help me process this. You know, we went through, here's the question. We you know, the questions we ask, because I've trained it on that. And I say, here's the answers that they gave. Help me process this. And then sort of summarize it. And then sort of, you know, so it makes that process, I mean, so much easier and quicker. And then the beauty of it is it gets through all this stuff, and then I'm left with sort of some good answers that I can then sort of tweak and say, okay, you know, I'm spending more time really focusing on those details versus the drudgery of going through and doing it. Plus, we're not spending time in the meeting like transcribing, which really breaks up the flow.
Yeah.
You know, we're just talking. And then so this sort of really makes that whole process much less painful than it could be. So, and yeah, I could definitely see sort of having some sort of chat augmentation at some point. You know, so it's definitely exciting. In fact, today, OpenAI came out with a new thing called the operator.
What is this?
So this is right now, it's only accessible to the ChatGPT Pro people. So the $200 a month subscribers. But what it's basically going to do is it runs on its own browser. So it has like an emulator. So you'll say, hey, do this for me. And normally it'll do a search. It can do a search in the background, right? So it'll say, okay, find me this. And it'll just give you some links and some sources. Now you can say, go book this for me. And it'll open up a browser window. And you'll watch it as it clicks around, types things for you. So they have some examples here of it, like finding it goes on to like Hip Camp and finds some or books an event. Yeah, there you go.
Introducing Operator.
Mm-hmm.
A research preview of an agent that can use its own browser to perform tasks for you. Available to pro users.
Yeah.
In the U.S. So it's almost like the way it opens a canvas.
Yeah.
It's creating a canvas, except it opens a browser.
Yes. Yeah, it opens a little browser window and starts doing stuff for you.
Tell me your name and what you do at OpenAI.
Yes, my name is Hyunwoo No, and I'm a research lead of Operator in OpenAI.
And what is Operator?
Operator is a research preview of an agent that uses browsers to help users to do things. So I have a 3-year-old kid who likes pasta, so I make a linguine with clam, so I ask it to buy the groceries for it. So I will use Instacart tab. And Operator can actually basically use any websites and it is not particularly optimized for Instacart. But the reason why using this app is that it provides a detailed instruction of how this website can be best utilized, just like the tutorial that human can benefit from. So I'll use Instacart tab and ask it to
So what they're saying is they're training sites.
find a recipe or
So they'll be able to say, okay, instead of so Instacart, it's been to Instacart before, essentially.
Yeah.
and add or ingredients to.
And I'm guessing that makes it go faster and be more accurate.
Yeah, I mean, like imagine, like I'll use even me as an example. Yesterday, because we're planning South by Southwest trip now, right? We're in the beginning stages of it, and I saw Southwest deal come through email again. Hey, deal is extended. So in my mind, I'm like, well, now I'm under the gun to get a good deal to get us flights to get there. And now I got to look for Airbnb again. And now I got to figure out, all the details, go through all the criteria. But now my time, now that we're like in the kitchen again, our time is way more limited during the day to be doing this stuff. And so I'm finding little pockets of windows throughout the day. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to leave the tab open so I can go and search rates and, figure out lodging and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why couldn't you just tell this thing, go do this for me?
Yeah.
Here's who's going. Here's the dates. And here's my criteria. It's got to be 3-bedroom, whatever it is. We want flights out of Long Beach, blah, blah, blah. Find the best deal. And then it just goes off and figures it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That to me is a huge hack.
Isn't that crazy? Well, I even had it so we're going to the NAM conference today.
Yeah.
And this morning I was like, hey, go through the NAM thing today and see if there's any AI discussions going on. And it's like, gave me a list of different things going on. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Why would you go through their website schedule calendar?
Right.
It's
No,
just
just
like,
tell
no,
me.
just tell me.
And it's like, hold on. And then 3 seconds later, it's like, okay, here's you
Yeah.
go. Like, give me an itinerary. I even was playing with it. I was like, give me an itinerary on things you think I'll like.
It's a good one.
So anyway, yeah, I came back with it.
But this is interesting, Operator. I'm curious to see how this is
Yeah.
going to play out, because knowing these guys, I mean, this is the $200 tier, but before you know it, it's going to be in the free tier.
They said it's going to come out. Yeah, they said it's going to come to the plus tier pretty soon. This
Yeah.
is just like in preview. But I mean, and we joke because we use a thing called Linked Helper
Yeah.
to sort of automate some
Yeah.
of our LinkedIn outreach. And it's entirely this, right? That in that case, that's a purpose-built emulator,
Yeah.
right?
And if you haven't used it, I mean, you're literally watching this bot
Yeah.
go through your profile, your account,
type stuff out,
start typing, and
right.
even fake type.
fake misspell,
Yeah.
and then it'll like scroll around and like delete. It'll like kind of like do its own thing, like click on some links and go back, and then do its thing. So it sort of like masks the fact that it's a bot.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting because I mean stuff like this, if I could, but there's limits even to what it's trained on, right? There's only specific tasks it does. But if you're using AI like this, you could just be like, just do whatever, right? Like give it some very basic direction and it could adapt. So pretty exciting stuff.
You know what I would love? I think about all the stuff I do when it comes to just on the business side, business development, deal flow. I mean, even onboarding, a lot of the things, manual tasks we have to do, right? And so we use Asana, we use Harvest, we use Monday.
Yeah.
We've got all these things. And what's the first thing that happens once we get, a contract signed? We're like, cool, we got the client.
Right.
And then there's a checklist, right?
Yeah, there's the
massive
list.
checklist of things we have
onboarding
to do
list
to onboard people, right?
Yep.
Now imagine if you could just tell this thing to do it.
Yeah.
Be like, we just onboarded the client. The information's right there in Bonsai, wherever. Go create a workflow.
Yeah.
Go create a Harvest project. Go create an Asana project. Go create a Slack channel. Connect, invite everyone who's there to it. And just do all of the things that we do and just have it be done.
Dude, there needs to be a meta layer to the web, dude. It needs to happen. Like we've talked about this.
Yeah.
But because think about it, like he's even saying, he said in that video a little bit, like this doesn't require an API, right? You can just have it do things in an automated way directly through the website.
Yeah.
Which is great, but I'm guessing it hasn't been to all websites. It's going to have to figure it out. Like if I went to a site it hasn't seen, it's going to have to be like, okay, let me figure out where that request you gave me, where is the answer? But wouldn't it make more sense if those websites had sort of a meta layer where it said, okay, here is stuff. Like here's what this site can do. Mm-hmm. And if you want to accomplish those things, here's where you would go.
Yeah.
So it actually could speed up, sort of like give it that learning curve. Because we know what websites have learning curves, right? That's sort of an understood thing. But if you can say, okay, here's a way through that's quicker. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So it's going to be interesting to see how the web evolves, around AI and where what it makes obsolete, or what it can optimize. It could be a very interesting future for these products and stuff.
I mean, even back to my example, it's time consuming. It's a drag, and there's prone to mistakes.
Yeah.
Even with such an extensive checklist, we'll miss something. We'll miss a project code or one of the steps will be missed. Or, there's always something, right? We find we're like, oh shoot, no one did that, or we forgot. Where before we might have had an assistant do that, or a PM do some or most of that. But then that's a whole person you're paying.
Yeah.
Right? To do something very manual and mundane that can be repeated pretty easily, especially with the way we onboard. It's a pretty simple system, right?
Right.
Especially if it's a new client, just follow the same process, nomenclature, whatever. Do it this way. Well, these things don't mess up, rarely.
No.
And I would be happy with 80%.
Yeah.
Just get me 80% there.
Yeah.
And then it's done.
Yeah.
And that's where I see things changing, like executive, administrative / PM stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, to where you just like, you're my back office.
Yes.
And I'm just going to tell you what's happening. Period. Send our what do you call it? Our W-9 to the client. Send the AP instructions, figure out who the AP contact is. Why do we have to go and manually do all that stuff? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
But I could see a day where that'll happen, and that would be amazing. And life would be so much better because we could now focus on just the task at hand, right?
Yeah.
Is helping the client. And so that would be pretty dope. It's going to happen. I mean, it's just a matter of when and how. But
Yeah.
this is a huge step towards that.
Yeah, this is
Right.
definitely sort of making things, like,
Yeah,
bringing it closer.
100%.
What else you got?
Well, speaking of the election being behind us, pre-election, Massa, CEO of SoftBank, announced with Trump, right, that he was going to invest $100 billion into the U.S.
Yeah, into
for
AI,
AI
in the U.S. Yeah,
in the U.S. And then Trump put him on the spot and said, "How about 200?
yeah, make
billion?
it 2. Yeah,
Make it 2." It was kind of a joke, kind
Uh-huh.
of funny. Maybe his negotiating tactic a little bit. But it was just announced yesterday that SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son will lead a massive $500 billion Stargate project with OpenAI and Oracle. So Sam Altman, Larry Ellison. So they're going to basically create a joint venture, it sounds like, to
yeah,
invest $500 billion into AI in the U.S., which is projected to bring, I don't know, tens of thousands of jobs
yeah.
and a lot to the U.S. So this is kind of a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's a real big deal, and I think it's signaling to, because I think you're going to see a time here when AI starts to become sort of a strategic force. You know,
Yeah.
just like for us, like Boeing and some of these companies are sort of they're strategic suppliers to basically the government. I think that's what we're going to start to see with stuff like this.
Yeah.
It's going to be in our national security's best interest to have this leading thing. And I don't know. I think this stuff is obviously moving along really quickly. One of the things that I'm very kind of curious about with this in particular, because this Stargate thing is very different from a lot of the other projects, right? I mean, typically, I'm not exactly sure, but I don't think, like right now, ChatGPT runs just fine on whatever infrastructure they have. So to me, this is pointing to something bigger, right? And so in some of the forums I've been on, they're saying this sounds like they know how to build, like this is what it would take to build sort of like a super intelligence. Like they're sort of like
This massive level of investment.
this is what it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like ChatGPT runs fine on whatever they have now,
Yeah.
but they're like, to get it to that next level requires something more massive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
This isn't just to do more of what we're doing. Like they're saying like, this sounds like something that they know like is sort of a major step up.
Right.
So that's what it kind of sounds like to me too. I'm like, this isn't just like, hey, we should invest. It's like, no, there's something big out there,
Yeah, you're probably right. This kind of thing is exciting. It's January, and
Yeah.
this kind of stuff is happening quickly here. So I think this is good for the U.S., but obviously for us in the industry we're in,
Yeah.
for the agency, we're going to start to see a lot of stuff. And guess what? There's going to be probably more than half of this stuff is going to be concentrated in San Francisco,
Yes.
which is where
That's
we're
being
going to
said,
be a lot this
yes,
year. Again.
There is going to be, I think you're still going to see that. I think you're going to see like in this case, they talked about some of these data centers being in Abilene, Texas, right? Which again, like and this isn't a bad thing, right? The same thing happens with like I say, Boeing and Lockheed and stuff like that, is they spread the love around, right? Because they know it's not, this is going to be AI, if done right, it is going to have to be sort of, we're going to have to spread the love around, And so to have these sort of stations set up all around, that's what they need. That's why, I think, you look at why Houston was where the NASA's launch thing was, you know, even though the launch pad was in Florida, the headquarters was in Houston. So they sort of strategically move these things around. So, but I do think it's going to be very interesting to see how this stuff sort of take shape.
Yeah, and it looks like they've got a involvement here with NVIDIA and Microsoft as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you have to.
Dude, this is going to be
Did you see all the stuff from CES
Yeah.
with NVIDIA? It
Like-
was just like
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Like I said, this is going to be so when defense contractors, I think you're going to see a very similar thing. So like when defense contractors build things, like for instance the F-22 fighter jet, or even the new rocket system, ULA or something so what they have is this thing called ULA, United something Alliance. And what they do is they're a group made up of all the defense contractors. So they sort of create this new entity, a joint venture, to build these things because frankly, they're like, no one should really be the only one building this. And the government even says that, like, this shouldn't be in one company's arsenal. Like, this has to be shared. And so anyway, there's a whole thing on how best to sort of organize this stuff. You're starting to see the same thing here, right? Where all these tech companies are going to sort of have a seat at the table. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, Bezos and all these guys sort of start either doing the similar thing or getting to be a part of all of this stuff.
Yeah, totally. What do you think about the TikTok thing?
I don't know. I deleted it like 2 weeks ago,
yeah.
and now I can't even get it
Is
back.
it part of your
My purge?
Your purge? Your fast?
Yes. I'm a digital vegan right now.
Ooh,
Yeah. I'm only Apple News
man.
and a little Reddit
Yeah.
on my laptop. I want to get it on my phone. But what I'm noticing though too is, yeah, that I don't know how the TikTok thing's going to sort of pan out. I think some of the things I keep hearing, and I'm not sure if this is still the case, but there's sort of this thought that the government would have some portion of this.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know
mean,
how
I told
that's
you,
gonna...
we were talking about it the other day. I like the fact that we're acknowledging that we have the leverage here
Yeah.
with the executive order, meaning we have the ability to say if it's going to exist or not.
Yeah.
And so having it operational makes it worth a lot of money. It's
Yeah.
worth billions of dollars, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Having it not operational means it's worth nothing.
Yeah.
And so in some sense we have control, leverage, right?
Yeah.
And so as a negotiator, I like the idea of the US should get something for that. Since we have leverage, let's keep it operational. It's worth a butt ton of money,
Yep.
but we're going to get a piece. On the other hand, what I don't like, I wish that leverage was just free, straight up equity partner in the sense where we're going to profit from whatever you profit.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's some, what were they calling it? Like reciprocity where, because they ban our stuff, right?
Yeah.
In China. So whatever, but let's just call it a money thing. It's going to make billions, or you're going to give us a kickback.
Sure.
As long as we let you keep it open here.
Yeah.
What I don't like is having a joint venture between the U.S. and a U.S. Chinese based entity where U.S. has any say over policing any portion of it.
Yeah.
I
We
want
don't
the
that.
government out of
I mean,
this stuff completely.
isn't that what we accuse them of doing, is having the Chinese government have influence over
Yes,
it?
of
And we're
course.
like, well, we want influence over it.
Yeah,
And
it's
they're
like-
well, that's not any better.
Well, we'll own half, and the way he says it, Trump says it, well, we should own half, I have the leverage, my signature.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to own half. But what does that mean then?
Yeah.
Are you going to tell
Who's
TikTok,
we and yeah.
what you want?
Right.
Like, are you going to have a board seat? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
I don't want the government
No.
involved in private business
No.
like that
No.
at all. Other than if it's just to make money for the U.S. Like
Right.
that's it.
Right. But yeah.
I don't even want them paying and invest. Like, where's that money going to come from? Like,
No. Yeah.
our money?
Right.
Like, we're broke. Like,
Right.
you don't have money to be investing as a
Buying
U.S.
TikTok with
Yeah,
tax
no.
dollars.
No. If anything, I would say we're the negotiators. We're the ones with the upper hand. We'll bring in the money because the U.S. Like you make 2-3 phone calls. You got Elon. You got Mr.
Yeah.
Beast is like
Yeah, like
talking
Mr.
about
Beast,
possibly
Kevin
buying it.
O'Leary.
Yeah, it's like the U.S.
You
can
know?
help bring these people to the table.
Sure.
And say, all right, make the deal. Kick us 10%.
Sure.
For doing the deal.
Yeah.
And we're good. But I don't like the idea of like we own half and we're in charge of half.
Yeah.
Like, no, just stay out of it. It's my opinion. I don't want the government involved in any of that.
No, we don't want that.
But it would be something.
It's going to be interesting to see how this
someone
goes.
like Mr. Beast stepped up or.
But I
Elon
mean, dude, it's
or-
got to be worth. Here's the thing. Like, I'm guessing. Let's just say, ballpark. It's worth say 250 million or billion,
Billy, yeah.
right? That's what I would probably price it at. Maybe 200, between 200 and 250. So you're saying you would need to come in with 100 billion or 120
Doable?
billion? Maybe you would need a lot of people, bro.
Sure.
You would need.
Elon paid,
Mr.
what,
Beast doesn't
40
have that lying around.
Elon paid
46 for Twitter.
46 billion.
Yeah.
And then I think
And-
even he
and
had
he-
help.
Oh, he had a lot of help.
Yeah.
He had to shake down a lot of friends to get on that list. And so
Well, I think Mr. Beast
they'd all
owns-
these guys are going to have to pool their cash to get in. I mean, look at SoftBank's talking about 500 billion over a decade.
Let's ask G here.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what TikTok is worth?
As of January 2025, ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, is valued at approximately $300 billion. TikTok's standalone valuation is estimated to be around $84 billion.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected.
84
then.
billion. You got to come to the table with a lot
At
still.
least another 40.
40 billion or so.
Still.
It's a lot of money. These guys can do it. Together, collectively,
Probably.
they can do it.
Yeah. And it's probably a way to do it. Is create a fund and then like a new corp, you know.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, it's very interesting times to figure out how all this is going to shake down.
Very interesting time. So 2025 is going to be a wild year, I think.
Yes.
You ain't
I feel
seen,
like
you ain't seen nothing yet.
honestly, I do feel like, and this is one of my predictions for 2025. I think
Yeah.
we've reached peak social.
Mm.
I think this is peak social. I think people are getting kind of, this is as good as this is. This is sort of like, to me, this is like TikTok jumping the shark a little bit. You know what I mean? Because everyone's like, okay, it was cool and fun.
Well, what's going to happen when your mom's on TikTok?
Well, that's it, right? Like,
Right.
or they just stay on Facebook forever, right? But I feel like we're at a point where we're starting to kind of see social as, yes, it's fun, but there's also sort of this sense of like, you know, this kind of stuff. Like it can get pulled. Like people have made careers out of their
Yeah.
TikTok channels, you know? And so
And then
there's
they
this,
did a TikTok shop, right? Launched.
Yeah.
And people were making millions off that.
tons, yeah. And so I think there's this sense of like, okay, there's too much, it's too risky. There's just a lot of the undercurrent around social is just, it's getting to be a little dangerous in my opinion. So I'm wondering if, and maybe this is just, I think I'm probably projecting because I've turned off social for now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there's potentially a time when people go, okay, this social stuff is maybe not worth the effort it takes, or maybe worth the downsides. But I don't know.
I'm
just
sure.
predicting
Yeah.
something. Peak social.
Peak social. I don't know.
Or my other thing would be, and I don't understand
I mean,
this.
you have
part
a
of it.
young boy.
I have a young boy.
Does your theory hold like in 10 years when he's 15? Like,
Yeah.
you know, he's into gaming and whatever, you know, where are those guys?
Yeah.
Where's that community?
Yeah.
What
Well,
are
he'll be
his
on-
buddies doing?
He would be on Twitch and Discord and all those things.
30-year-old platforms.
Yeah. But my thing too, I'll say this, and I'm surprised this isn't more talked about because, like, you know, all these things from Twitter to TikTok to Instagram, the technology behind these things is really it's pretty thin. I mean, granted, TikTok has a pretty good algorithm, but by now we can figure that out. Like, it's, you know, what's surprising to me is that these things haven't gotten into more of a open source sort of place where, you know, great, TikTok does this. People go, okay, TikTok's getting kind of crazy. Let's go to this open source version of it, you know, where it basically does the same thing. You can port all over all your videos and whatnot. And now it's not corporate. There's no ads. Like, it's just, and you might have to pay, you know. One of the things I've always wanted to see when Elon took Twitter over was this sort of switch where it would go, it's going to be completely supported by users. So you would pay to use Twitter. You might be able to read certain things, but you wouldn't be able to post unless you paid. And at that point, then advertising becomes irrelevant, you know, because now it's user supported.
Or in the words of Elon, thank you for your opinion. Now pay me $8.
Yes. Well, but that was, and in early talks, that's what he had sort of even talked about doing, is because the problem was, the reason it was being censored was because of advertisers, right? And this is even the case with Facebook. Like, Facebook, with Zuckerberg, he did the community notes thing. He's had to turn around and convince and tell advertisers that now there's this option when you put an ad in there that you can say, do not put this where there are controversial topics. And you can sort of say, I don't want to be part of that. Just, you know, so don't put my Apple ad after a political post.
Yeah.
You know, so these things are sort of disconnected. But they're having to do that because advertisers are still their main source of income, right? But if they could switch to users, it would give them, to me, sort of, it would empower users to have more control, and it would make advertisers less. They wouldn't be beholden to them as much.
Right.
They'd be able to stand up to them and be like, well, fine, you know. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
Well, we'll find out in 80 days or whatever it is, 85 days. So check that out. Cool. Well, this was a fun episode.
We've solved all of the world problems.
Yeah, right here. And
Next week we'll solve nuclear fusion
no, quantum computing.
and quantum computing. We'll just do them together. They kind of need each other.
Sure.
One might lead to the next.
And next week we'll talk about crypto, because I have some thoughts around where that's headed to.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And so stay tuned for that. We're going to head over to NAMM,
Yes.
the Anaheim Convention Center. We got some passes, and we're all musicians here.
Yes.
And there's a lot of technology too. And there's probably AI stuff for all we know.
Yes.
They're going to be
in fact,
showcasing.
so one of the things we splurged on this Christmas was a Rolly.
Dude, you haven't brought it in.
Dude, it's
How-
not
how
even
is
here
it?
yet. They
What?
Yeah, they sent me an email just the other day saying it's going to be February.
Oh, man.
They're just back ordered. But it's this cool little sensing. So they have a big old booth.
Oh, we'll
And
check it out.
They
yeah.
just announced a new keyboard today, like a full size. Look at this. It's a full size
Ooh.
keyboard that lights up. So
And you got the little mini one?
yeah, so we got the mini. This, what's it called? The C something or other. But it's this. It doesn't look like a normal. It sort of looks like a keyboard, but not really.
Yeah.
But it's much more like.
And what do you call those keys that you can you can slide and
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So it's a thing called MPE, which stands for, it's a MIDI. It's like an upgrade to MIDI,
Okay.
and it lets you do like it MIDI used to just do like, okay, how hard you hit and the length or whatever, and maybe sustain. this does all sorts of things. So you can actually do vibrato on the keys. You can do pitch bends. You can do volume. And it even tracks like how quickly you release things. So it just gives a ton more data to the sound you're putting in. That, you know, it's not just note on off. It's you know, all these other data points. And then the software can then interpret that. So they need to be like, okay, you know, on the release, do this, on the hit, do this, on the pitch, do that. And so you're able to control much more of it. And so it sounds organic. And that's the crazy thing about it. It's like when you start, and there's a whole thing. Remember we watched that video about, what's his name?
Timbaland?
No, the composer.
Hans Zimmer?
Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Talking about how this new keyboard helped them do Dune and all these new sound effects that sound completely real and organic, but they're all created through these new interfaces because they have just a lot more information coming
Just
through.
wait until you can combine all that with Suno.
Dude.
Because you know it's going to happen. In fact, we should look and see if Suno's at the...
I already did, and they're not there.
They're not there?
I don't know.
That seems like a fail.
It feels like I'm failed, but they may not be welcome.
That's true.
They might.
That's true.
They might be a little nervous showing up to something like this. I don't know. I don't know. I would
you
love
at,
to have
Suno?
them see him go there and just.
Where are you at, Suno?
Let's
Anyway,
go.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's
We'll
go.
Catch you guys later.
All right,
in the
we'll let
next
you know.
one.
We'll
Peace.
report back.
That's true, dude.
Sightbox, unbox, know we open the door. New podcast dropping like never before. Tapping AI, here we got the cure. Founders for founders, the vision is pure.